Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's video we'll see how we can create a pagination in a React.js, and for that we will use a library which is called the React-Paginate. And then to understand how this library works, we will create a sample project, which is this one. So we will fetch some images from an API, and then in each page we will show 6 of those images. And as you can see, we have the pagination here, and by clicking on different page numbers we will get to that page. We also have 2 buttons for next and the previous, so by clicking on them we will get to the previous or next pages. Okay guys, so this is what we will create. Now let's get started. So as you can see, I already created a React app. So if you didn't already, you can start by creating a React app. Then I also added some styling. So as you can see, I added a Google fonts here and added some default styling for all elements. And this part is styling for the images. But as you can see, I didn't add a styling for pagination because I thought we can do it together. So you can see how you can style the pagination. So the next step will be to install the React-Paginate, and for that you can go to this page again, and I'm gonna also put the URL to this page in a description, so if you want you can find it there. Then to install this React-Paginate, you can either copy this line or you can copy this line, and then you can open a terminal in the same folder as your app and then paste it and then press enter. So now the React-Paginate is installed. The next step will be to fetching the images. For the images we will use this API, and as you can read here, it is a free fake API for testing and prototyping. You can click on this guide here and scroll down, and here you will see an endpoint which is albums 1 photos, and if you click on it you will see we are getting 50 objects, and each object has a URL, and this URL is the image. So we'll have 50 images, and now you can come back to this app.js, and here we need first to import use effect hook and use state hook, and then here we can create a state for images, set images, and it will be user state, and by default it will be an empty array. Then we can use the use effect here, and inside it we will fetch the images, and for dependency on this use effect we will put a empty array, which means that this this function inside this function will be executed just once, and it will be the first time this app component is created. So here we can fetch the images, and we can use the fetch API, and for the URL you can copy this URL and then paste it here. The fetch API will return a promise, so we can use the then method. The response has a method which is called the JSON. We can use this method to convert the response to the JavaScript objects, and then this JSON method will return another promise. So therefore we can use the then method again, and here we will get the actual data that we want. So here we can set the images to data. Now we have the images. Let's create another component where we can show all these images and also add the pagination. So for that, you can right click on the source folder and create another folder for components. Inside it, you can create a component and call it images. Here we can import the use effect and use state hooks from React. And then for actual component, we can type export default function and the component's name, which will be images. And then we pass the props. Inside this component, we can start by getting the data from props. And this data will be actually the images that will be passed to this images component. Then you can go back to this page, and if you scroll down, you see a usage title, and under this usage, they've showed you an example of how you can use this React-Paginate library. And here you see also they've created a paginated items component. So what we have to do is to copy all the code inside this component. So we will copy it and then paste it after data. Then let me fix the indentation here and also here. So now you can remove actually this items component. We don't have any items component, and you can also remove these comments. And then you can remove the console logs as well. We also need to add the item per page, so you can add it after this item offset. And this items per page will be actually the count of the items that we want to see in each page. We also need to change these items to data, because now our items is actually this data. And we can change it here and also in line 18. So one more thing that we need to do, which will be here in a use effect. So we need to pass this data as a requirement to this use effect hook. Now let me explain what these codes do. So you see after this data, we've added a state which is called the current items, and this will be the items that will be shown in the current page. And then we have a page count, which will be the count of pages. Then we have an item offset, and this item offset is actually the index of the first item in the current page. And then we have a use effect here. And for the requirement of this use effect, we've passed this three, and each time one of these are changed, so these codes will be executed. Inside this use effect, we have a end offset, which will be the index of the last item in the current page. And then we are updating the current items, and the current items will be the items from item offset to end offset from this data. And then we are updating the page count. At the bottom, you see that here we are returning a React-Paginate component, and this React-Paginate component actually should be imported from React-Paginate. So, and in this component, we have to pass some props. As you can see, we have to pass the brick label. The brick label will be these three dots, as you can see here. And then we have the next label, which will be the text of the next button. Then we have on a page change, which will be a function. And so each time we are changing the page, this function will be called. And in this function, we are updating the item offset. And here we are getting the new offset. Then we have the page range displayed, and this is actually how many page number we want to be shown before this brick label. And by default is 5, but you can change it to 3. Then we have a page count, and as you can guess, it is the count of pages. And then we have the previous label, and then at the end we have the render on a 0 page count, which will be the null. So as you can see right now, we are showing the pagination, which will this component do, but we are not showing the images. To show the images, we can create a div tag here, and we can give it a class name and name it images. Then inside it, we can loop through the current items, and the current items will be the images in the current page. And then we can use the map to the loop through them. So for each image, we want to return a div tag, and inside this div tag we will have the image. The source of this image will be actually the image.url. So as you saw in a beginning, we each of these items, which will be the same as this image, has a URL, and this URL will be used here in the image source. Then we also need to add a alt property, and for that we can use the image title. So we also need to add a class name here and name it image. Then we can go back to the app.js and import this component that we've created, images, from components, and then images. Then in a return, in the app component, in a return, we will return a div tag. Inside it, we will have the images component, and as I said, we need to pass the images as a data to this images component. So we can type data and then pass the images. So now let's run this app and see how it looks like. So if we don't get any error, and here okay, so we are getting an error, and it says that cannot read the property of a null and reading the map. And it is, I think, here we are getting the error here, and it can be because we have by default null, and null will not have a map function, so it should be an array, empty array by default. Now you see that we have the images and we have the pagination here, but we need to add the styling to it. To add a styling to the pagination, we need to add some extra props to this React-Paginate component. So the first one will be container class name. I can give it the name of pagination. The next one will be page link class name, and I can give it the name of page num, and then the previous link class name, and it's will also page num. Then the next link class name, and also page num. Then the last one will be active link class name, and it will be active. So, and these props, you can actually find them here in this props list that they gave you. So you can find all of them here. And if you look a bit closer, you see that we have some which is just page class name and page link class name, or active class name and active link class name. So some of them has a link and some doesn't. So for that, to understand them, you can open this page again and inspect. So, and then we can select the pagination. So you see that we have a class here, pagination. So this is the container, and which is an unordered list, and here we have some list items, and each list items will have a 8 tag, which will be the page number or the next or previous button. So here, when we've selected page link class name, actually we gave a class name to these 8 tags. But if we remove this link from it, it will give a class name to this list items instead of 8 tags. And it will be the same for next and the previous buttons. Okay, so now you can open your CSS file, and here we can style our pagination. So we had a pagination, the container. So we can first set the list style to none, then set the display to flex, then justify content to center and align items center. We can give it a margin bottom, 5 rem. Then font size, we can change it to 1.2 rem, and then we can add a gap 5 pixel. So right now, if open it again, so you see, then we can add a styling to each of these buttons, and we can do it by typing pagination and then page num, so which we gave here. So now for them, we can add a padding. For the top and bottom, it will be 8 pixel, and for the left and the right side, it will be 15 pixel. And also we can change the cursor to pointer, and the border radius will be 3 pixel. So right now, if I open it, so it looks like this. Then for the hover effect, so when we hover on those buttons, we can type pagination dot page num and hover. In hover, we can change the background color so. Then the color will be white. It looks nice. Then we can also change the active page number. So the styling of the active page number. We can type pagination active, and then we can have the same background color. Now we have a full functional pagination. So this means that this will be the end of this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you had any questions, you can leave it in the comment section below, so I'm gonna answer them if I knew the answer. So see you in another video.